What's good with the YouTube? You already know, Big Flacco with a comics reaction where we smash, dash, slide through, and react. Hope everybody's having a positive day, man. Keep on striving, keep on pushing, man. Do what you do. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support this channel, as well as hit that bell notification for future reactions. And what we're going to talk about today, man, is a video that came out a couple weeks ago. Sleepy from Lincoln Heights, right, on hood stocks. And there's one particular part that I want to really sit there and pinpoint, right? And it was the part about Tracy D.V.I 1982 and the Northerners weren't with it and whatnot. Now, me knowing the history, there was a policy that was out there in Tracy at the time, around 1981-82, to where every Northeno that was stepping out was to come back to the hole within 60 days, I think it was. It's a 60-day period. Those are facts. You know what I mean? And that 60-day period, when they got to those yards, they were supposed to handle their business. See, this was the first really development of Nortenos. Was around the late 70s and 80s. This is where they started to organize them and take a little bit more hands-on approach. When they would get to K-Wing, they would get to Gletcha from the NF. I'm saying that's where all the schooling started to come about in the first implementations of understanding things. So, yes, the Surenos were established first before the Nortenos. Therefore, they already had a longer presence of being unified and pushing one collective. Now, he said the numbers were even. An even playing field, you can't say no one's not with it, because you have people from Frisco, Salas, Sanjo, Sakura, Fresno, I mean, all those areas, man. And there's hitters from those towns, man. You know? So, you know, people sometimes will spin a narrative or embellish what they feel or think. And I'm not saying that about the OG, man. But I know some of the individuals that were on that yard around that time in 82. They was definitely with it. You know what I'm saying? As well as a lot of Southsiders were. But this was a time period when the NF was really focusing on organizing the Norteño car. So maybe the Sudanos looked a little bit more organized. You know what I mean? Had a little bit more security. They were doing the MA's bidding a little bit more, as opposed to the Norteños first starting to have their expulsion, which means the forcing out of a new cause, a new lucha. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure that, I think Hobo was there around that time as well. Ricardo London, I think even Skip was there at that time, and maybe a few others, D.V.I. And so, you know, you had some individuals that were down the rock and ride, you know what I mean? Maybe they weren't there. I mean, there's different eras when they were there, man. But I know 1982 was when that policy was implemented. And there was either homeboys that were going out there handling their business, or they weren't. You know what I'm saying? But that was a mandatory policy that the NF had come up with around that time. Because before that, before all this occurred, Tracy was a NF stronghold. You know what I'm saying? There's stories about NF members rushing busloads that were being brought of AB members, you know what I'm saying, as they get off the bus. There's stories about how they had their own offices. They had their pool at this location, that location. And this was during the time era of the Civil War, you know, that they were just coming out of. And so there was a lot of other issues going on. This is when they were employing, you know, Nortenos at that time to do their bidding as well. You know, and a lot of Nortenos I got really involved in the NF Civil War that was going on at that time with Bobo, Black Bob, and all that. You know what I'm saying? So there may be a little bit of truth to what he's saying, because the Southerners had been around a lot longer, and it was them attacking Northerners that forced the Northerners to put it together. From our recollection and from our education, it wasn't like you know, the Nortenos just formed out because the Surenos were there. No, they formed because they were being attacked. They were being victimized. Whereas before, you had Nortenos that did not fall under any bandera. They were just raza. Either you associated with the NF or you associated with the MA, or you just did your time. And see, that's where everything started to change. Was the MA created the Surenos, which was a smart move on their part. Through a lot of propaganda that the NF were Nortenos and whatnot, and all that occurred vice versa, man. So a lot of these Surenos were ready to target Nortenos. You know what I'm saying? And I think it wasn't until when the NR first started to come out, that's when things really started to change a lot, man. You know, this is the first time when they were already establishing the XIV structure of Nortenos. Like I said, they came to the fold around 79, but 82 is when they started to really, you know, take heed and have policy, procedures, you know, and individuals would go out there and handle their business. So maybe the OGs from that era, man, where no matter what, you're never going to give that opposition or enemy, you're never going to give them the upper hand as far as what you're thinking or what you feel about the reality of it, man. I guess our era today is a little bit more honest and a little bit more willing to keep it real as far as on current events and stuff that's happened in the last 20, 30 years. You know, it's a treacherous time back then, man. A lot of people were, you know, going through some shit. You know what I mean? It was a struggle. You know, you just didn't come into a prison and all of a sudden everything was easy because you were a Norteño or Sureno. You know what I mean? And, you know, numbers, I think, were maybe even more even at that time than as opposed to later on. Yes, the Surenos have always had the numbers, but I think that this was a time period where it started to change a little bit, man. Was around the late 80s and 90s. That's when the Surenos recruitment started to go on to a higher level. More hoods were being expanded up down south and stuff, and even up north. But before that, man, like I said, I think there's some partial truth to some of the things he says. But I think it comes down to this. I think he just isn't going to give the opposition its due respect. Because there's individuals from Salinas, Sajo, Sacra, Stockton, I mean, all these cities, man, that later on would become carnales that were young Norteños at that time, that were definitely with it. You know what I'm saying? Just like there was many probably Southerners at that time that would eventually become future and medals that were there in Tracy at that time. But it was definitely a time of war. You know, so all those procedures he talked about, I expected that they were doing that. And I'm pretty sure that the Norteños were doing it. But when it comes down to it, though, the Surenos were established and organized first. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until later on when the Norteños adapted a lot of the NF discipline and procedures when things started to change, man. And it's because of the numbers. You know? It's because the numbers is why the Norteños functioned in a militant type of procedure. They had to. It's what allowed them to maintain their existence on those yards. You know? If not, they'd be putting themselves in an uncompromising situation, man, to where, you know, it is what it is. You know? Anyways, this is your boy Flacco, Convicts Reaction. You know, shouts out to Sleepy Lincoln Heights, man. You know, he did his time. You know, he was from a different era, man. And hopefully we can learn from the past to hopefully propel into a future to where we're not trying to attack and tear each other down, but instead trying to find ways to work towards common goals and no longer be killing our own. As long as that ego's there, you know what I'm saying, amongst these groups, things won't change. You got to put the ego to the side. And that's hard for a lot of people, man. It's hard, man. I get it, you know. Anyways, Flacco, Convicts Reaction. Hope you guys have a good one. Hope you enjoyed it, man. What do you guys think about it? I think he embellished a little bit to it. That's me personally. I'm not going to call him a liar. I think he spun it more towards his perspective is always going to favor his own. You know what I mean? You know, I see that at times, man, that there's certain things that with the old timers that they all will at times favor their own when it comes to certain situations. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's certain stuff that I know that I've read, and you know, it'll say one thing, and then people try to dispute it over here or over here because this is where they were the group they were previously a part of. You know, it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? But now Tracy, the Nortenos were definitely with it, but they had it bad there, though. I was told that it was hard on them. That had became a Sureno stronghold around that time, based upon all the changes by staff locking everybody down. And the Nortenos that were there were on a 60-day period. When they went out to the lines, they had to handle business. If not, y'all stupid. All right, guys.